What's up, everybody? Cole Sands Fishing here. It is April 4th, 2022, and we're going to dive into this week's report. So as a lot of y'all know, I've been at Lake Cherokee this past week and a half at a Bassmaster Open, so I haven't been in town fishing Chickamauga, but I've been able to talk to some friends who have been out here lately. Plus, it's that time of year. There's things that work every year in April. I'm going to show you kind of my favorite baits to throw this time of year. What I like to target, talk about that a little bit, and it's usually pretty consistent every year. So this is the stuff I'm going to have tied on going forward this week into my guide trips and stuff that works every April. Some little tips and tricks I probably shouldn't share with y'all, but I'm going to anyways. And that should be it. But yeah, my open this past week at Lake Cherokee didn't go as planned. I kind of stayed, I was hard-headed. I stayed on the low end of the lake and kind of tried to fish where it really just wasn't happening that good. But I'll get them at this next one. I appreciate y'all's prayers, y'all's calls and texts, just wishing me luck and praying for me. I can't thank y'all enough. But let's get into this week's report. So, you know, it is April 4th, so it's springtime now. You know, we got the dogwoods blooming. The birds are chirping. It's starting to get some really beautiful weather. I know we had some cold weather last week, but we're on a warming trend now, and it looks like it's going to stay pretty consistent for the next couple weeks. And you know, some of the stuff that I had me catching them on before I left, it's going to start to go away. Like that rattling vibe bite is going to start to die. Usually this first week of April, I still catch some on it. But as it continues to warm up, that water gets closer to 60 degrees, the fish have other things in mind. And so the biggest thing that I see this time of year is, you know, pre-spawn, I'm catching a lot of fish on flats. I'm catching them, you know, whether it's grass or just mud or just kind of, you know, open water covering a lot of water. But the transition that happens now is these fish start to think about spawning as they really start relating really tight to cover. So, you know, lay downs, reed clumps, stumps. Stumps are a huge thing on Lake Chickamauga, and you'll see it really play this week when Bassmaster comes to town. There'll be several guys do good fishing stump rows. And this should be an exciting tournament for the Bassmaster guys. You'll see guys catch them pre-spawn. You'll see some guys catch them getting ready to spawn. I don't think you'll see many post-spawners yet. There might have been a couple, but I think it's going to be a really good tournament for these guys. I expect some bedfish to really play, and I expect some pre-spawn patterns to still play. You know, that offshore grass deal, that rattling vibe deal. But I'm going to talk to you real quick about the stuff I like to throw, kind of what I like to target, and we'll go from there. So a big thing this time of year, like I said, the fish are starting to spawn. A lot of these fish are going to be in shallow water, and by that I mean, you know, 6 foot and less. And my favorite thing to target is two different things. I look for hard bottom, whether that's gravel or rock or something like that, and I look for stumps. That's probably my two main forms of cover. Besides that, laydowns are always a staple, and that's something that works, you know, something that's worth targeting as well. Now, there is going to be a grass bite that'll play a little bit in some of them offshore places. It'll probably be a first thing in the morning deal with like a chatterbait or that rattling vibe, but we're going to mainly talk about the spawn and spawning fish. So first off, some baits I like to throw. Like I said, it's kind of a transition deal. Soft plastics are really going to start playing a huge role. So for starters, just the good old tried and true Wacky Rig. I got it hooked right now. For that, I use a little 1/0 Nico rig hook. It's got kind of a cool little bend to it. You don't lose a lot of fish. I use an O-ring, 5-inch Senko. This is the Fishco 5-inch Senko. It's called the FC Money Stick. This is green pumpkin, purple flake. On Chickamauga, I always keep it super simple with color. When it comes to color this time of year, green pumpkin purple, green pumpkin blue, something like that is my go-to when it comes to a Wacky Rig. It just, you know, don't overcomplicate it. Now, sometimes what I'll do if I'm fishing a little bit deeper, if it's a little bit windy, I will add a little like a 1/16 ounce or a 32nd ounce nail weight to the head of it and make it more of a Nico rig. But the slower rate of fall you can get with the Senko, and if you have the patience, it seems like the more bites you get. For the setup on that, I use a 7.2 medium action Witch Doctor Tackle Shaman series rod, super sensitive. I like a little bit of length with the 7.2. You can get a little bit further cast. That's 15-pound Yozuri braid to a 10-pound Yozuri T7 fluorocarbon leader. I go with 10 just because you do throw it around some thick stuff, and If a fish wraps you around in a brush pile or some grass or something, you want to be able to get them out of there. But that Wacky Rig is always just a killer this time of year. And as far as throwing that around stuff, man, it's just such a versatile bait. You can throw it shallow, you can throw it around stumps or grass or whatever. But the key with this deal is I'm making long casts. Anywhere I think a fish might be spawning, I'm wearing my sunglasses, which I don't have them on right now. But when I'm out in the lake, I'm being sure to use my sunglasses. I personally like more of an amber lens just because you can see in the water a lot better. And you can see them isolated stumps, some isolated targets. And the biggest thing is making a super long cast, like I said. And this is just one of those bite getters. Besides that, other baits I like to use, this is a killer in the spring. And it's just that little Ned Rig. This is another bait you can just keep in your hand, put that boat in, anywhere from 4 to 10 foot of water, make a long cast at the bank, and just drag it slow. I use this to catch a lot of fish that are just a little bit deeper, that you're not necessarily sight fishing for, but those stump rows and, like 3 to 7 foot of water or them little gravel patches and stuff like that. That Nico rig is a killer. And for that color, and for that bait, that's the Fishco Little Deuce and Green Pumpkin Copper. Same thing, it's just a really natural color. I like the copper in it a little bit, just gives it a little sparkle. And as far as the setup goes, I got 10-pound Super 8 Yozuri braid. I like the 10-pound because you can throw it a super long ways. On the Wacky Rig, I prefer more of a high vis because a lot of your bites with this thing, they'll just kind of pick up and start swimming. So I like to see my line, if one ticks it or if my line starts swimming off, I prefer the yellow. For the Ned Rig, I don't really care. I'm going more off field than anything, so I got the green one on this. Like I said, it's 10-pound. I got an 8-pound T7 Yozuri fluorocarbon leader. 8-pound of this one just because a Ned Rig's just so good at catching super pressured fish, and this is one of them baits you can just go behind people with and catch fish. That's a 1/10 ounce head, super light, and just gets you a lot of bites. And that's the same thing, same structure. Stumps, points and little intersection points, fish that are spawning and fish that are getting ready to spawn. They can't stand that little Wacky Rig this time of year. Another bait I do the same thing with is a little shaky head. And for that deal, I got the 6-inch Fishco Finesse trick worm on, or finesse worm on there. And that color is Texas Red. I really like red in the springtime. You see me throw it on my Rattling Vibes and my chatterbaits a lot. And just a green pumpkin red, I feel like you get some of them fish that are in that pre-spawn mode with that color. And for that, that's the 6-inch worm, a little 16th ounce head. And you wouldn't believe the difference throwing a 16th ounce head makes compared to an 8th ounce head. Here's an 8th ounce right here I got rigged up. And it's pretty similar in size, but the rate of fall this time of year makes all the difference in the world. I've seen years past in April, you can throw that 8th ounce head and you'll get a couple bites. But if you throw that 16th ounce head, you'll go from getting a couple bites to getting like seriously 5 or 6 times as many bites. And I've caught some big bags of fish with that little setup right there. Some of the biggest fish I've ever hooked on this lake and some of the biggest fish I've ever caught on this lake have been on that little setup. Same thing, throwing this around the same structure. Now, another thing I like to throw this on because it is weedless is I get on them transition banks in the creeks, them bluffy banks where the fish are traveling from their winter huts to their spawning grounds. I'll get on them transition banks. So this is something that you'll see play this week in that Bassmaster event. I'd almost guarantee it. Is those banks between their winter homes and their spawning grounds. So that them steep bluffy banks in the creeks, that little deal, you got to be patient. It takes forever to sink, but the bites you get are usually big fish and you get a lot of bites. So that's one of my go-tos as well. Besides that, one more thing that'll definitely work is, the drop shot setup. I don't have one rigged up, but usually just throw like a little 1/8 ounce weight, a little 1/0 hook. I rig it weedless this time of year, just because you're throwing it around stumps. You don't want to, get hung, ruin a spot. And then one thing you'll see some pros do, I'd almost guarantee it, and a little tip for y'all going out, if y'all have Panoptics on your boat, there's some stumps in places that you can see visually, but there's other places where you can't visually see them. But what I did last year, I got Panoptics on my boat and I was able to find them stumps in like 3 to 6 foot of water that you couldn't see with your eyes, but you could see with Panoptics. and I was taking my little drop shot and I was flipping it around each stump, using my Panoptics, making short, about 25-foot flips. For my Panoptics range, I set it in closer to about 60 feet, 50 feet, something like that, and I could make super accurate casts around these stumps. And with that drop shot, I caught so many fish, and it was a really cool bite. So that's kind of my slower stuff, my soft plastic stuff. Also, another thing you have to have tied on this time of year for laydown fishing is just a little Texas rig or a small jig, something that you can put in, inside these laydowns. With the jig, I usually go with a 1/2 ounce. With the Texas rig, I go lighter, usually like a 1/4 ounce. I put a small creature bait on, but that's always a good fish catcher. For that deal, if you're flipping in that heavy cover, I always go with 20-pound T7 fluorocarbon. That 20-pound is just, you can't break the stuff. You don't have to worry about if you're going to get the fish out of there or not. So that's just a little killer. Besides that, like I said, there's going to still be a moving bite going on. And one of my favorites for that this time of year is a little hardcore crank 65 65F, they're square bill. And this square bill is really good because it's got a weight transfer system that you can cast a super long ways. As far as the setup goes on this, I got a 610 medium heavy Sermon series rod. This is the half glass, half graphite. I know you've heard me talk about. Got a 6:4-to-1 gear ratio reel, 14-pound Yozuri T7 fluorocarbon, and I got a little bluegill pattern on there because this is the time of year when the bluegills start to get around these bass beds. The bass will get really territorial. You get a couple of them nasty days where it's really windy, or you got some rain or something. You can throw that square bill around stumps, around grass. And what I like about a square bill compared to a rattling vibe, like I've talked about, is the square bill, man, you can really throw it in that cover because, like I said, they get really cover oriented. You can throw this through them stumps, through them laydowns and stuff like that, and you don't have to worry about getting hung. So that's a bait I'll always have tied on this time of year. Besides that, this is my favorite time of year to throw big swim baits. I'll throw like a harness style 6-inch swim bait. I'll throw some different 5 inches. And this is a bait you can just cover water with. This will be a player this week. A swim bait that stays close to the top of the water column is always a really good bait this time of year. As far as the setup goes on that, 20-pound Yozuri T7 fluorocarbon. That's a 7.3-to-1. For the rod, on this, I actually like a glass rod. This is a 710 heavy glass rod. It's got a great backbone, so I don't have to worry about losing the fish, but it just really, that glass allows the fish to load up on it, and that 710 makes it possible for me to make some really long casts. Other big swim baits I throw this time of year, this is the best time of year to throw a glide bait in my opinion. That's the hardcore Ninja Twitch. I always like kind of that metallic color. You'll see some fish caught on this week in that Bassmaster event as well. I'd almost guarantee it. But that'll be a player this week. And then besides that, a couple things I like to do. A spinnerbait this time of year is always really good. I catch a lot of fish in April burning a spinnerbait as fast as I can, close to the water column. As far as color goes, just something really natural. I usually throw 2 willow leaves or a willow leaf and a Colorado on the middle spinner. And then besides that, I think another thing that'll play a lot this week, you get them nastier days or first thing in the morning before the fish really sit on that structure really tight. I think you'll see that chatterbait continue to play. Just using a 1/2 ounce jackhammer. I usually use either 16 or 20-pound Yozuri T7 fluorocarbon. 16 if I'm trying to get a little bit deeper. 20 if I'm trying to keep it in that higher water column, or if the grass is really thick, I'll move up to that 20. But you'll see a lot of different patterns starting to play. Like I said, the soft plastic deal was really going to start to shine. There's going to be a lot of flipping fish with a little creature bait, Texas rig or a jig. That chatterbait will be a player. It's a good bait just to cover a lot of water with. And then that really should just about be it. I'll get out there some this week, and hopefully we'll get a report for y'all next week. I leave to go to the James River for the first stop of the Northern Opens. I leave this weekend, so y'all be sure to keep up with me. Keep me in your thoughts and prayers, and I appreciate it a ton. But I can't wait for it. I'm excited to get it going. But good luck to y'all in the water this week. Good luck to all the pros fishing it. I think it'll be a really great event. I don't know how they're going to hit it. These fish out here, they go in a weird stage where the pre-spawn bite is really, really good, and then the spawn bite's really good, but there's like a really weird like week and a half stage where the bite gets really tough, and that's when the super light, Ned Rigs and shaky heads and stuff like that will start to play. So we'll see. The pros are either going to hit it just right when the spawn's starting and it'll be a beatdown, or they're going to hit it kind of during this tough period. But either way, it'll be a really cool event to see how these guys break it down, see what they figure out, and I'm excited just to keep up with it. So good luck to all them fishing it, and good luck to everybody else on the water this week. Thanks, guys.